So please welcome Lenka Schultz to the show. Welcome, Lenka.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Such a finally a good time to be here.
Yes, it's like meeting someone like you. And I'm going to let everyone know that we were scheduled last week and she couldn't speak her throat. And we just visited a little bit as much as we could on Zoom and rescheduled for today. But we always know that it wasn't supposed to be. And I never look at anything in life that way as in everything. Like if it was meant to be today. And then I got to get to know her even on a deeper level, the energy that I connected with after I met you last week up until now, it shifted. So I was like, oh, now I'm ready for Lenka. Like, okay. And I said this to you, I think the last time, it's like when I interview someone now in this fifth year of my podcasting journey, I have to be like so excited. I can't wait to share you with my world. I can't wait to wake up on Tuesday to put you out there and see the magic that people are going to discover that you have uncovered in your life. So that's how I feel now, and it's such a great place to be at the beginning of our interview. So I think I want to start with I want people to understand because when I have done my rabbit hole and you've written two books, but there's so much more depth to your journey. And I feel like we need to get into like the healing aspect because when I look at your books, your main thing really that you talk about recently is intuition because that is your latest book. You are so much more than that word. But I want to back up and start with where you feel like, maybe how you were raised or when you started uncovering your magic and why you started this spiritual path. Where would that be, Lenka?
I would start actually with the word intuition because you're right. The word is so watered down and it's so thrown out there left and right, and people really don't understand what that means. And I love words, especially because English is my second language and I take everything literally. So I literally go into the etymology and understanding, okay, what does this actually mean? And I'm realizing that people who talk about intuition, they talk about intuition, but do they really know it is the connection to the soul? And the soul is the connection to the source. Do people actually understand? And if they really sit with that, they will have so much more appreciation. I mean, they don't understand that this is the first sense. If you come out of your mom and you realize that you could be deaf, you could be blind, you could be, handicapped to not be able to walk, but you can sense the world. You can actually thrive with this one sense. And that's the only thing really that people out of all those senses, they just kind of like, intuition,
Right.
but it is the key to the realm that we both like to talk about. So how do I start? Well, exactly, kind of well, back to intuition. I believe that I was born in time where that first sense was very awake, more so potentially than the others, just because the upbringing or the surroundings at that time, and I feel it was a blessing. I didn't see it at that time that it was a blessing, but um, when something is just so normal for you, you don't think about it, so you just
Right.
go in life with it. And then I have realized later on, much later on, that there's something that I know or I can sense or I can see that maybe others don't. But that is just actually the norm with people who feel the same way as me, is that we don't really think it's anything special because it is so part of us
Right.
until we stop and start like pay attention. And then we start realizing, oh, maybe there's something that I do have. And for me, it was about, I need everybody to know this. This is so great. I cannot live without it. How can they live with it? They almost like crippled to me if they don't have that innately in them.
So when you were younger, it was just something that you tapped into. It was part of you. It was your soul. Like you, that it was like on superpower.
I guess so. I don't remember that much out of that time, honestly. I just know that um, things that was unexplainable was really fascinating to me. And it was like part of me without really knowing it was part of me because it was part of me. It was not like separate. And not very many people were around that time, around me, who would be sharing these kind of mm, feelings or thoughts. But my dad, he was, I thought, open-minded. I still think he is. And he would be the one taking me to these different healers and things like that. So I was always just very intrigued by that, but I didn't think anything of it at that time.
Huh. But do you feel like your intuition and I was reading your something on your website about the generational intuition and how that like links to your ancestors and
Mhm.
is that part of that, do you feel like?
I thought about that, especially when I wrote about the generational intuition. Yes, I feel that the women specifically are much more tuned into it, not because males don't have it. I think the males just not reawakened it for generations. Because if we look at the shamans, aren't there the males usually? So why is it in the other cultures that the women have it? I think it was the quote, quote, survival mechanism, but not even realizing that's more than that. It is actually thriving mechanism. And if we look at just our grandparents and just look at mine, and I grew up in a communism. We didn't have a belief system, right? We didn't have a religion. So you have to believe in something. And I wrote this in my book, my first book, and it is not going to come out really well in English translation. But I asked my mom one time, I'm like, so mom, like, what do you believe in? And she would say, what do you mean? I'm like, well, just, you don't believe in kind of religion. So what do you believe in? And she showed me her hands and she said, I believe in my hands and salami in it. And I'm like, what? What does that mean? So I believe that she believed in herself
Hmm.
and what she could provide for herself. And if you believe in yourself, you really have a very strong belief. And I think these are the women who actually are the intuitive ones who believe in themselves. They just don't say the word intuition, if that makes sense.
Right. When did the healing part aspect of your intuition come through, the medical intuitive?
That came, they came much, much later on, and I don't even know why. I remember, being in one of these time of my life where I was very intrigued by everything in that realm. And, it was, and people can resonate with this. You looking at these tarots and astrology and pendulums and, all these different things. And you're like, okay, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Everything sounds great. And then I remember driving in the car, listening to audio tape, and it was about medical intuition. And it was with Norm Shealy, Dr. Norm Shealy. And he was the one who coined it, and he was the one who actually brought it to the mainstream. And I'm like, that's it. That was it. That's it.
Hmm.
And I felt that it was very important because health is our new wealth and it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's very important for me to people realize that they need to become their own intuitives for their own health. I mean, a lot of moms are already doing that for their children, but a lot of moms don't tap into themselves
Hmm.
for their own healing. And so we have that in us. We really do. Why are we so disconnected? That is just a big, huge puzzle to me. And that's why I felt like if I would like to guide people to one thing, is that would be to themselves. And they cannot get through if they have blockages in their body, in their mind, in their emotions. And, that needs to be kind of cleared up. And a lot of times we follow all the different gurus, all the different belief system to trying to find the path and forgetting that the path is really within us.
Right. I'm very attracted to healing right now and taking my Reiki 2 in a couple weeks, did my 1, just out of just to learn. And I know we talked earlier and you said if it came back to the basics, it's Reiki.
Mhm. Yes. Well, again, look at the word Reiki, translation, energy. So when people look at like, oh, I'm doing Reiki, well, they quote, quote, doing energy. And it's really simple. Yes, of course, there are many different modalities out there, many different healing modalities. But if we really dissect it to the bottom, they are all based in a very simple principle. It's all energy. And I believe from all the things that I had learned that that is the most accessible, very reasonably priced, and anyone can do it. I was teaching even children, and they picked it up actually better than adults.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. So what I'm getting is, since we were talking before we recorded about my past life regression last week, what I'm getting is, and you did shamanism, you are an intuitive healer, intuition, your whole aura about you. In your past lives, I feel like you're like this mystic, some kind of, the shamanism thing attracted you. And I feel like that I picture you in a past life like that. Have you had that done before?
Yes, actually, I've been trained in that. So I have three different kinds of training in past lives, as well as hypnosis. I believe it's one of the most amazing way to get deep into the soul, really is, because like we were talking earlier, it just gives you a different perspective on yourself. And once you actually feeling it in you, there's no denial, right? It's kind of like it's not it's like where they came from. It's not about just thinking it, you feeling it viscerally in your body, what you're going through. So I feel it's one of the best therapies out there for people to really get into that soul. Um, I, you know, we have thousands of past lives, and I believe we were all of it. We were the good and the bad and the ugly.
Hmm.
And sometimes the ugly was making us better because we have to experience both sides. So if somebody's just thinking that they were the priestesses and they never did anything bad, that's just to me illusion. So I definitely feel that I've been on both spectrums. And if I looked at the word shaman again, I believe that shaman is just a one word. But if you look at it from the Europeans or whatever, they're the mystics or they're the alchemists. They anyone who was really able to understand energy to depth were the shamans. But the shaman is just a word, and a lot of people just get hung up on words versus actually what that word means.
Right. I know you definitely talk a lot about that. And I love when you have the word, even when someone asks you, tell me about Lenka, you're always like, well, that's a word.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my name. Right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and stepping into the name, it's actually, because you were given the name, it's a vibration of frequency. It's a signature that you walk in. So when you change names, and I always think about this as a woman in this particular culture we are born in, we take men's last name. We step into that vibrational frequency of that family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really powerful something to think about. So a lot of women stop doing that. A lot of women encouraging their children to keep their name and add, but don't take it away. And I know other cultures just add, right? So they have like 3 4 names behind their given
Right.
name. And yeah, names are really powerful because you speak it, I am, right? And then you say the name. So it's very
Right.
important that people understand. I think it's actually important to understand why your name is this. What was the intention behind the name?
Mm-hmm.
Because it resonated somehow with that bloodline that gave you that name.
Right. Because you have 2 girls too, close to my girl's age. When you were um, ready for birth and picking names, was there something that you did to prepare your mind to name those girls?
Yeah, I had yes, I had picked names that at that time I believe would be the best representation of their energies. Um, and being a girl myself, I didn't like my name in an early age. I really didn't. I
Hmm.
liked it once I came here to United States. I didn't like it back then. So it's just like, people want to change names because they don't resonate with that. They change it. I mean, it's a very interesting concept, actually.
Right. But what did you go through did you meet the babies first? Did you feel the energy when they were in your womb?
Um, I didn't put that much thoughts into it. I just like names and then the meanings behind it, what it stands for, where it originated, how would that sound? Will they be able to say it easily? Other people, will
Hmm.
people shorten it?
Hmm.
Because when you shorten your name and you don't speak fully, I think that is a disservice to your name. If that was your given name, you people should be calling you that.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, it just made me reflect on when I was naming my girls and how I was, um, and what the process that we went through. And then it's like when you look at them now, like there's no way she could be anything but that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could see that. I mean, we have, okay, this is not my children, but there's dogs. So we have gods and goddesses in our house. So we had Apollo and Zeus, and they are the Greek gods. So then I was getting my little Shih Tzu, and it was a girl, and I'm like, well, I have to have something more powerful than these guys. So Isis.
Oh.
And it is a funny story because obviously Isis have been polarized, right? The beautiful goddess Isis had been um, taken, the word, and used for something complete opposite. And I had done that specifically for that reason, to claim that power of the feminine energy, that powerful, beautiful goddess Isis. And I say it every day. Obviously, I'm chasing her around and all that. And um,
Cute.
I feel it like every time I see it, like say it, I can feel it, my intention, and it's growing. And the funny thing is that when my kids took that little cute puppy out and people were asking what is the name, the response would be like, what? And eventually my daughter got so fed up, she would just like, oh, she's a Rose. I'm like, honey, you should not do that. This is her name. I'm like, Mom, no, not this time around. Just you can deal with it. So, change in perspective. This is kind of like a shocking mechanism because when you say something to someone, and then they get that shock, what actually happens, it's that opening. You actually created an opening in their brain to put new information in. So every time you create the shock, that is an opportunity. And that's what I love to do for people. So if I can shock them with that name, great, because it's an opportunity for a shift of consciousness.
Yeah, I love it. You mentioned so I'm staying at the birthplace. So when a baby's born, you say two energies meet and explain what you mean by that.
Okay, can you remind me, did we talked about this before or did I
No,
just say something?
I just heard you say when a baby's born, two energies meet, like your soul and your personality is what
Oh, okay.
is kind of what I took away from it. And
Okay.
just how they start, we know from 0 to 7, there's, the baby's pure and,
Mhm,
we're
mhm,
all
mhm.
in,
Yes.
these
Okay.
as parents ourselves, like, how are we programming them? Right?
Yes. Yes.
Explain
Um,
that.
I don't know if you meant this, but this is what I can talk about is that when baby is born, the first sense, it's obviously the intuition, and it's like antennas like out, right? It's just that the soul is now completely out and is soaking information in. And it's okay, let me think about this, how I'm going to say this. When the baby is taken care of on all levels, which is loved, adored, fed, changed, all that. The baby's job literally is only to go inward and start growing within, right? So it's like all the senses that's picking up the love, the kindness, the compassion, the touch, the hugs, the kisses, and all that stuff is soaked in like a sponge, right? It's wonderful because all they have to do is just take it all in. And hopefully they can do this as long as possible. And then you really getting the sponge full of love and joy. And they already are an essence of God, right? They are vibrating and pure love. I mean, it's just if we can measure it, that's probably what would come up. Like it's just absolutely amazing. And when it's kind of like starting to explore the outside world, they still are being cushioned with the mom and the dad and the love around. However, let's just give it a different scenario. Let's just say that the baby is born and it doesn't have that. So that mechanism is now changed. What happens is that these intuitive antennas are now picking up information for only survival. It's it's only saying like, okay, if I cry, I'm not going to be ignored, so I stop crying, and so on and so forth. So it's now completely empty. It's not filling up with love or anything. It's like emptiness, and it's seeking out something to fool itself in. And I believe this is actually um, a sign of early addiction, because
Hmm.
we actually are addicted to love, God's love, just love. And if we don't have it, we crave it. And we literally crave in our whole life that essence if we don't have it completely, fully soaked in early times. So
Hmm.
it makes sense, right? Some people are having a hard time with addictions, and some people have just a little tiny addiction. And addiction could be also good too, right? Going to the gym 24/7 kind of thing. I'm exaggerating, but that is also addiction, because
Right.
if you are completely soaked in something that is so rich, you don't need anything else. You just don't.
Right.
So I don't know, we kind of going on a tangent, but that is to me very important understanding of, as a parent, yes, you are busy. Yes, I understand you have to make a living. But if you choose to bring another soul into this, just know that that is a God's contract almost. And your babies are your investment and dividends that not only pays you back, but it pays back the society, the humanity. And so if
Right.
every single one of us, and importantly, the government starts understanding that we need to start putting really a lot of attention into our family units, where the mom has a choice to stay home at least for 6 months. I mean, it would be nice for a couple of years, like other countries, civilized countries do. Okay, we are one of the two civilized, if you want to even call it that, civilized countries that the moms have to go to work. So, and that to me, it's a problem already for that unit of family. And then if
Hmm.
you multiply that unit of families by millions, we have a big problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we spoke when we talked when you couldn't speak very well last week about this time, with our girls being teenagers and knowing that we don't have the worry. We don't, because we've raised them with our our knowing and their knowing their intuition, knowing, their values and following I always, I always say following the breadcrumbs, but as I watch my both girls at 16 and 18, and I know you feel the same way, and that's why I wanted to share this because I want people to understand that, you know, I I didn't get married till I was 36, had Paige at 37. So I had my basic, 37 years of life and lessons to become to that place where I knew intentionally that I wanted to raise my girls with, especially, I mean, I don't want to say I don't have boys, but I think with girls, like the self-worth, the knowing who they are, and I just look back at my intentions, and I look at Paige now, and I Presley too, and she's growing at 16, but really seeing Paige in college, like she has her self-worth, Lenka, is so high. Like watch out. She's not going to attract a narcissist, that's for sure. Like she is like her radar's out. But isn't that a good feeling? Tell me your feeling about you, and because I pride with I teach classes to kids and parents, and I see parents that haven't had that the knowing that we had raising them, and so they're like, can you please help me? Like I need to know how to, what can I do for these children that are raised in this world with
Yes.
social media and technology and all the things that we didn't have
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah, I feel that what you do in teaching children their self-worth, their confidence, it really builds into that muscle of the intuition. And the intuition is like the GPS where that guides them for life. And I feel that what I see in parents, what they do is they mean well, but
Right.
they worry. So if they worry, they put fear, and they really bring in that message to their children like, you know what? You dumb. I'm the smarter one. Let me tell you what to do. And you follow me because I am whatever, smarter, older. I've been there, done that. But, don't be surprised if your kid's looking back on you like, well, you've been there, done that. Does that work for you? I mean, look at your life, what you have done, right? So don't be surprised if your teenagers will answer you that, because I believe that it's all about the evolution. It's all about our children being better than us, so we can step aside and allow the best part of them, which is half of you and half of your husband, right? The best genes came together and created something out of it, which is your daughter. And that you have to trust that it's better, smarter, faster, more intuitive, all of that together, whatever those best genes is. And if we are looking at our children and we are seeing ourselves in them, that's a disservice. It actually is. You holding your children back because you think that they are like you. They're nothing like you. They are better than you. You are just stopping the, but at the same time, isn't that terrifying? Because because if you know that your children are all of that better and more evolved, then you have to go humbly in your own existence and say, well, if they don't going to need me, what am I going to do? That's the
Hmm.
empty nest syndrome, right? It's that when we really projecting our own insecurities again into their awareness. And I also see that and I'm talking these children, some of them are 60 years old, and they are nothing more than puppets to their parents,
Hmm.
because their parents are not ever been able to clip the wings and let them fly. So if you are brave enough to trust the process, that you have done a good job, you will get the dividends back. And
Right.
so, because it is terrifying for parents, of course, but it's also so rewarding where you finally know, oh my God, all these years, actually it worked. And I feel that us talking about it, if some young moms looking at this, balance out where the first 7 years or 7, 10 years, you really insert that confidence. You let them make a small mistakes. You make them to make fool of themselves, and all of those things that their ego could be hurt. Let them experience. Let them make fun of themselves. If you cannot laugh at yourself, that's a big sign that you're going to be struggling in life.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like when you get to this stage now and you see the seeds that we planted, and don't know if they're going to bloom, and then it's
Yes.
like, oh, they're blooming, yay! They did listen. But
Yes.
yes, and to look at them as a greater version and a more the next level up, like let's keep moving up and empowering them to see that in themselves.
Yes.
And what started me thinking, because I was reading an article that you wrote about AI, and that's part of like this, this is this generation, this chat GBT, these kids are, it's a whole different they didn't know. I mean, we had to go get encyclopedias and go to the library and look up things. But
Yeah.
now it's just like this AI. And I know you have I love your take on it. And it has been something in these last few months that we've been talking about. Can you share your take on that?
I love that topic. I am not an expert in that AI world, I must say. I just have a different perspective on it from my perspective. What I see is it is wonderful and it's terrifying. The wonderful is, for example, from healing standpoint, right? Um, I love the fact that you can go now to a physician, doctor, healer, so on and so forth. And there are so many amazing devices and gadgets and information, things that collect data to figure out what's wrong with you in a matter of minutes, right? Within an hour, they collect all the data and now it's more focused. Okay, we have A, B, C, D. Now we know exactly what's going on. I love that. However, then what is really alarming is it doesn't stop. Then from that, you go into, oh, well, now we have these devices that will make you heal. Okay, well, that's great, but I don't believe that these devices are actually capable at this time to tap into the spiritual aspect of our existence. And as I wrote my doctorate on it, is that majority of dis-ease is based in the spiritual realm in the first place. And that's why we as a society, as a humanity, we are all struggling because all of us are somehow spiritually unhealthy because we all trying to get the soul component integrated into our soul. So if our soul is completely free on all levels, which means expansionally able to express the human existence fully, completely, with no boundaries, I believe your body will equal that, which means you will feel 100% perfect, right? But
Hmm.
I don't believe there's very many people who walk in that path, especially in the modern world, maybe somewhere in the mountains where they are supported by the divine intelligence day in, day out. So when we enter into the healing devices, we are now becoming kind of almost like hybrid, like they are treating us like a computer system, like a car is broken and we just fix the parts. We are
Hmm.
completely are giving away our sovereignty, our divine intelligence into this AI, artificial intelligence. But we have not started now. We have done this long time ago when we are allowing things to be part of our bodies, even when we are been experimenting with artificial insemination, things like that, everything artificial, we have gave permission to start kind of coexisting and cooperating with these kind of things that we put into our bodies, from creams to lotion to whatever. Again, it is part of it. So we have to kind of be aware of it, that if anything, it says artificial intelligence, artificial, and it's not divine intelligence, then we are already kind of on that path. And again, I have nothing against the AI and is when it's expanding our existence, but we have to not forget that all of that have been based our own intelligence. Everything had been programmed somehow, some way from us. Yes, it's true that as you ask me a question about something, I will probably not going to be able to give you the answer. I have to look up the Google. However, that doesn't mean that I don't have the capability to do so under certain circumstances, right? So we already know that through hypnosis and past life regression, we can tap into the vast information of anything and everything in the cosmos. Okay, that has been already been demonstrated. Again, I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but I'm just saying those avatars have been already showing us that we have the capability of doing that. And if we don't hold on to that divine intelligence, the sovereignty within us, and we give permission to AI completely enter and replace that aspect of ourselves, we lose that soul component, that dial up to that cosmic existence. And it's important that we passed on that information to our children. So, and again, understanding what is divine intelligence and what is artificial intelligence. Divine intelligence is something that um, is self-sustainable.
Hmm.
It doesn't need energy from the outside, doesn't need a plug, doesn't need electricity, doesn't need any of that to be functional. The divine intelligence, the butterflies, the apples, the sunrise, the sun rays, the just overall the particles in the air, that the field of the consciousness is all that divine intelligence is and needs, that makes us a self-sustainable. And
Right.
of course, you have the big creator, which nobody really knows. Nobody has the answer who, what that is. That is a big, huge mystery. And of course, there's a many theories. And I believe, again, I like to say they're all correct in some level of consciousness. And we can agree to that. They could remain mystery. I mean, knowing that mystery doesn't going to change anything about my existence. I don't think
Right.
so.
Right. You know what? You wrote another article. I loved reading them. Was wake up, like wake up, go outside, be in one, just like what you're saying, like in what, like be in one with your soul and the connection with nature and how
Mhm.
important that is. Because that's where I get my uh, everything. Like when I'm outside and when I was listening and reading, listening to you and then reading that, it was like it resonated with my soul because I really believe that, you sit and you look at a tree and you become one with that tree. And then you look at these birds and it's like I just do it that's my late morning routine. But explain how that's a huge thing to you.
Yes, I believe we are nature. So
Right. Me
being part
too.
of nature is just like, again, it's no separation. And it's just a manifestation of those particular particles, right? So they change. Like water, right? If we understand that we are, depends who says at 85, 90%, whatever, water, and water is transmutable, right? You can take ice, make it a water liquid and be in steam. So that isn't that an alchemy? That's just amazing. And we understand that, it's like came from ashes going to ashes, right? So it is really the transformation aspect. And like you were saying, the certain beings have capability to take that essence of us and enter into the consciousness of the tree, of the birds, and become one with it. Very shamanic, very alchemistic, right? Aspect. Um, but if people want to just start from just a simple concept, you know a lot of a lot of people are now aware of that there's a certain places in the world that there's very healthy people, right? Sardinia, for example.
Right.
Okay, well, they say, oh, it's the diet. I don't think so. The diet is part of it. What really is that rich environment. It's the prana, it's the chi, it's the energy in the air that
Hmm.
feeds the body. So if we also take that concept to another level, and if we think of these people called breatharians, that they don't eat, they only breathe, and they can completely thrive, not survive, thrive. Okay, what? Like, how is that possible? Where's your diets go?
Right.
Okay, everything goes out the window. It's just completely shatters your consciousness. Like, what? What do you mean people are out there just breathing? Well, that's not possible. Well, it is, or somebody already proven that. So if we go back to the nature and realize that if we are in Sardinia or we are in the Himalayas, we are in Romania's mountains, and when we are really aware how we feel, like I've been to Romania and it was a really, really harsh weather. And cold and snow, and I was not prepared. Okay, a city girl, totally not prepared for this. They were actually, the guide was first he had a looks like I'm crazy, but then he laughed. So anyway, I have to say 4.5 hours up the hill and then down the hill in this miserable cold conditions. um, I was in complete joy. There was something in the air that just was fueling me. I didn't been exhausted after because we, again, I live in Florida, which is flat, and we were climbing, which I don't use muscles, right? That I should be sore. There was no soreness, no nothing. The chi, the prana, completely supports you because you are one with it, especially if you allow it, if you recognize it with your senses and you like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, this is amazing, this is awesome. I could have had it differently. I could just say, it's miserable, it's cold, it's this. And then I would feel exactly that. In the morning, I probably would have a hard time getting out of the bed. But because
Mhm.
my consciousness was vibrating with the essence of what was in the air, that was responding to me. There was that immediate feedback. And if we take that idea and we go somewhere that we don't care for that vibe, I mean,
Mhm.
you can just say, I could just say some kind of a Walmart. It's not my favorite place to shop in Christmas season. You could see how you feel when you get out. Like, okay, or just any governmental office that you have to do something, do just push some papers through. You get out and you completely exhausted. That's not coincidence.
Right.
And then the people working there feel the same way. So it's just like you entering into that prana versus
Mhm.
into something else. And it's important for people to realize that every single one of us are conduits. And we have the power to bring that beautiful energy from the field down to earth, down to our levels, right? So if you stand in the backyard or your balcony or wherever you are, you can call it in, you can bring it in. You are the conduit. But if you are negative, like if you have that negativity within you, you also bring in that as a conduit. So
Mhm.
what vibe are you bringing down?
Right. Oh gosh, you're speaking to the girl that talks about, oh, them, the word police. But vibration and energy and, that being outside for me, it takes it to the next level. And when I am a mom to my girls and I explain and they see me in action, I'm definitely do what I'm doing what I do. And if you want to do it, you see how it makes me feel and how it makes me happy and who I attract into my life and all the experiences that come to me that are like are magic. And I
Yeah,
just know like if you start believing in magic, you're going to see magic every single second of your day. And
yeah,
so when you live from that place and tap into that energy and go to that highest, like my place is just it's like I always say the thermostat. And if you feel like you're dipping and you're like, oh geez, that doesn't feel right, and then you figure out how to get back because it's just a muscle, right? But
mhm,
to get to that place where you're, I say 100, and you start like you see life in such a different way. Like
yeah,
it's like, oh my gosh, isn't everybody excited to be alive today and have this amazing day that we get to see the sunrise and walk our dogs or see the birds? But it's that vibration. And I feel like now with the energy shifting and the earth, the vibration of the earth is vibrating at a different vibration, different frequency. And when you're tapped into that, it almost like it feels weird if you're not at that space when you are practicing that. Do you
yeah.
see that too?
Yes, I feel that everyone is exactly where they need to be. So not everybody was going to be vibrating on the level that
Right.
you explaining, and it will not resonate with them. And it's totally okay because you have to remember you have been there in some point in time as well. Maybe some other lifetimes, but you've been
Mm-hmm.
there, right?
Yep.
And I see it as a ladder. We have to honor one another, which step on the ladder you are in. And even in the world of spirituality, there's always like the beginners, and then there's always the complete avatars, right? And every single step is as important as the last. Just giving you an example. So understanding that where people are exactly where they want to be, and maybe they completely resonate, but like you were saying, we maybe not resonating with that, and it's very evident. I feel like it's like some of these vibrational frequencies feel like they are just eons away, like it's just so far away. And once, if you have, like, again, going back into the governmental offices, it just doesn't resonate. It feels like you're going into some dinosaur cave. It's like, why are we still dealing with this? the consciousness looking at it like that. I, for some reason, don't understand at this point in time. Why do we have to have wires? Everything is wireless, but we still have so many wires when we build in a house. Like, why? There's a logical question to some point, but we are not there, I guess, with the complete wireless, you see. So if
Right.
people living already somewhere in some part of existence without wires, they're looking at us on the street, how many wires we have when we're going down the street, right? Like,
Right.
look at that civilization. Oh my gosh, they still have wires on their streets. So that's kind of how we see in this. It's like we are observing the other realities, and it is really humbling, and it's you know it's I feel it is our responsibility to hold the vibrational frequency for others, because
I
it's just a
agree.
matter of time. Then they're going to be coming, and just like somebody's holding vibrational frequency for us.
Right, for sure. But what brings me to mind is the Power versus Force book by Dr. Hawkins and the levels of consciousness, because I remember I bought that book in my 20s. And it was just, I mean, look at back at my bookshelf and I'm like, wow, I was interested in that. Like that's now it's still in my life, at this my 50s. But you talk about that a lot and I love
Mhm.
that. So let's
Yeah.
share because, when I say where I can be at 100 and it's like so comfortable now because I live that way. And yeah, there's no judgment. I mean, I have, but when you see the levels of consciousness and how he describes them, I think that helps people too kind of have a view of like, oh, I'm here.
Mhm.
These are my thoughts that I think. This is where I am
Mhm.
at. And it's
Mhm.
fine. We're all on the same journey. We're all on
Right.
our own journey, I mean.
Yeah. I love the work of Dr. David Hawkins, and I feel like that would be the foundation for my teachings. And why? It's because he walked the walk and talked the talk. And from coming from medical doctor that he was, and he had experienced many illnesses, like devastating illnesses that have been non-curable to the mainstream medicine. And watching his journey to completely heal himself, including thick glasses, that is the teacher I want to have, right? So that's why I'm like, yep, he's it. So when people realize that that kind of a concept is not just like, oh, I want to be spiritual and I want to just talk the fancy language. No, you need to take your body with and see that how your body heals, because your body is your divination tool. So your body will not lie. If you have these aches and pains and suffering and that is still some kind of vibrational frequency stuck in your body that needs that transmutation, right? There's not, it doesn't have to be good and bad. It just is. And that, for example, the just is the neutrality that Dr. Hawkins explains. So he has these beginnings, which is like the shame and guilt and so on and so forth, that has a very low vibration. And if anyone thinking about it, they can right away know how that feels, or see person in it who carries deep shame or guilt. And it's just something that doesn't feel good. It doesn't have energy, doesn't have that inspiration. It doesn't have any of that spark. It's very molasses like. And then when you go a little bit higher up and then you start feeling the anger, which is much more energizing than depression, because the depression is nothing more than depressed anger, right? So when we get into the anger, we need to welcome that if it's obviously understood, and we don't want to take some chronic anger and seeing it on the street manifesting and some chaotic behavior. But I'm talking personal, okay? Personal journey of, okay, I'm angry. What am I angry about? That is a very, very good, healthy step to see that the anger can lead us to change. Because when we are angry, we're fed up. Okay, I'm enough of this stuff. Then we can go to something else. And we have a desire. And the desire is like, okay, what the heck do I want? And that desire creates that frustration again. And then from that, it's like the birthing process of something else. And then once we cannot get something that we want, that could be like, okay, I guess I won't get it. So it is whatever it is. And that is when we let go of that human desire of the materialistic world, because that we all need to get there though, because we are manifestors, right? If it's your family, you want to create a family, or you want to have 2 cars in your garage, or whatever this is, it's just go for it. But once you get it and like, okay, I'm done with it. So what X, I don't care anymore. That neutrality is a really good base. And honestly, if just listeners would sit with that for a little bit, because this is so powerful. When people going through hard times, and I'm talking really hard times, and I've been there a few times in my life, when you like, well, it is whatever it is. Okay, so okay, I'm sick. It is whatever it is. I'll die, whatever it is. I'll have bankruptcy. It is whatever it is. And when you really sit with that fear of the worst case scenario, and know that you are completely surrendering to a force that is beyond you, that's when that really spiritual journey starts, where you're like, okay, I am in God's hands. I am in that field of magic. It's like, however you want to say it, like if whatever resonates. It's so important that the language you use resonate. If God doesn't resonate, use magic. I mean, whatever. But once you get into that, okay, I am so scared, but I am also jumping out there because there's nothing else to lose. That is so beautiful. And then from that, the surrendering, that is leading to, like you said, the magic. And then of course it is the higher vibrational voltage energies that come and meet you with the manifestation of much more juicier things in life. And that's how I like to see it. But if we go back into that healing, people need to get into that. It is whatever it is. Stop controlling. It doesn't mean don't take your vitamins, don't go for a walk, don't do your mantras. I'm not saying that. It's just don't put all that energy into it. That bag of vitamins, it's not the source of your thriving. It really isn't. It's just one element of it. The massages you get, it's not the element of your thriving. It's just one element of it. So it is these choices that you create your healthy healing habits for life, but that's the health, that's the human aspect of it. And it is not just one thing that works. They all work. They all work because 40% is placebo right there. If you believe in it, it will work 40%. If actually there is something that actually works, it's even more so, right? But knowing that the healing part of it is mainly the spiritual aspect of it, where we are transmuting the darker particles in us from generational dis-ease, that is based in, oh my God, in the realm that we don't see. So when people are beating themselves up, it's just not your life you're healing. You're healing your ancestors as well. And that is really humbling because when you heal something, you can change your DNA 7 generation forward and 7 generation back. So if you're going through such a hard disease and it's scary, know that when you're healing something, even if you think that you know you're not doing a good job, whatever, every element of it, you healing your children with it. They're not going to be experiencing that any longer because you change in that aspect of yourself. And it doesn't have to be just cancer. It could be a phobia. It could be fear of standing up for yourself. It could be the lack of self-esteem. Any of that you heal within yourself, your children won't go through it.
Right. Oh, I love that. I had a reading with this woman last week, and she was saying that my second grandmother, or would be my great grandmother, was coming through saying, what you're doing now, like with this podcast, is you're changing your ancestral roots, your line, because you're speaking your truth. And in her time, she was explaining it like she wasn't able to speak her truth. And she says, like, thank you for shifting our time, our ancestral line. It was cool.
Yes, I think the throat is the voice box, and the spirit needs the voice box to be strong because it uses the sound. It's not even the words, it's the sound in the words that people don't understand. Like a lot of sensitive people can sense the sound of the words. Because sometimes you hear a person and you're like, yeah, the word sounds right, but there's something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sound, because the sound carries a certain vibrational frequency. So when we are healing that aspect, when we open up our voice box and actually are allowing the other elements to speak through versus just our will, our personal will, it's very different vibration.
Yeah. Lenka, this has been so fun. It goes by so fast. But tell everybody how they could find you and your books and all the things, Lenka.
Very easy. Lenka.org. There's a couple books. And I also have, when people sign up for my newsletter, I have a free ebook, and it's like a handbook to all the fun, easy steps to build your self-esteem. Probably even you can use it for your little program that you have, because there's just the how you know the difference between deception and the truth and the lies. And there's just a great info if people connect through my newsletter. But everything is on my website, lenka.org.
What is your, like, what are you working on right now? What is your passion?
Third book, I cannot wait. Spiritual healing, exactly what we really talked about. So it is the intuition, absolutely, but it is the intuition guiding us to the spiritual healing of our soul, of our personality, of our bodies, of our emotions, all of that. And that's what I'm writing about.
When you had, so for an example, I'm just seeing when something's off, like when your throat, when you couldn't speak last week, what do you do? Like with a dis-ease or a little illness or whatever it is that you're going through, what do you do do you just acknowledge it?
A 100% acknowledge it. I'm the first person go, oh, what's going on? Like, yep, because I have constitution. It's very, I would say strong, and I'm very blessed to keep the body strong. And I do have my healthy habits. It just doesn't come easy, I must say to the listeners. However, when something does occur, I don't necessarily panic. I always look at it like, what is my body trying to tell me? There's some message about it. And sometimes it's just simple as, you need to slow down. You need to stop, like stop running. Okay. You need to sit, read a book, drink your tea. And that is probably my hardest remedy, just because I love to do. I just creating things are just my passion, but my body sometimes is louder. And from the voice, it was very humbling experience, because I have never lost voice before. And I was saying to myself, okay, if I can't speak, I just take it as I shouldn't speak. And that's just all it is to it. Surrendering to that situation and see it that whatever happens supposed to be for a reason. So, I like to also say that when people going through one thing in life, and it probably hurts the most, because we have girls and we are girls, so we can relate to rejection. If you don't get invited to the party, if you have not been invited to that podcast, or rejected from this organization, or not in, whatever this is, rejection is a divine protection. You
Yes.
have been spared from something that was not aligned with your soul. And if we people can just remember those words, your life will be so much easier.
Hmm. Oh, mic drop. But I believe I live that way too. And
Yeah.
I definitely, things that go on with the girls, parenting and when things, think that they go wrong. I said, they know now, Mom, I know it's for me. I know
Yes.
we'll find out why that, once we start walking that path, but it's just so, it's invigorating to live life when you know that there's something amazing from that experience that's going to happen because everything is for us.
Yes. Yes. And the only frustrating thing is that you don't get validated right away. Sometimes it
Right.
takes years, but you will get the validation. I must say, you always will. It sometimes comes. much later in life. But that is the muscle that you're building for your trust.
Right.
And don't spiral down into the, I'm not good enough and da 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 da. Just do you and don't worry about it. The
Right.
right doors will open up.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. It was so fun. I was looking forward to this.
Thank you, Ashley. It was so much fun, actually. Great conversations.
Thank you.